So a couple of months ago, my Tesla got to 0% battery as I was driving, and then this happened. So the car has stopped. The battery's run completely out just as I'm by the gate, so I can't even drive in the gate. Yeah. But how far was I able to actually drive with the system telling me I had 0 miles remaining? Let me tell you what happened. Before we begin, I just want to mention that obviously everything I'm going to go through today is based off my personal experience, so results could differ from me to you. So where do I start? Okay, let me lay down some of the context for you first of all. Like, it was super cold when this happened. It was minus figures. In fact, I think it was snowing like a week after. So yeah, it was super cold. I'm driving a standard range Model 3, just in case you're wondering. So yeah, so I'm usually good with the battery. Like, I don't usually let it get too low. But in the winter, when it was like so cold, it's so unpredictable because the battery would literally keep jumping from, and not jumping up, like jumping down to like, and it wouldn't go like by 1 mile. It would like drop from like 10 miles at a time, and then it would stop, and then it would go down a bit more, and then it's just so, it drains so quick. Now, I'm a person who likes to have the heated seat on and the heaters on. Why shouldn't you? You've got an expensive car, like, you're not going to sit in an ice cube. So maybe a factor of the weather and the fact that I had everything on had something to play with it. But then even in the summer, like, you have the AC on, and I know the weather is warmer and it's like a factor of the weather. I get it, like, I do get it. But this situation where this happened was just like, wow, like it just took me by shock. So I dropped my mate off at his house, which is about 5 miles from where I live. As soon as I dropped him off, at that point it said I had 10 miles left of range. I thought, this is fine, it'll get me home. As soon as I started driving down the road, it dropped to 0, and it got to 0 and it had a little ice symbol next to it. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? So I thought, well, I just need to keep driving home because there was no known chargers in my head around me, and I didn't want to waste charge looking for one. So I'm driving along. I wasn't doing more than about 20 miles an hour. I was trying to keep as much power off. I also had turned off my heated seats and the heating, so I'm driving around in this expensive car in an icebox, freezing cold with my hood up, with it at 0, trying just to make it home. And anyway, I got into the high street, the road where I live, and I could see my apartment block. And just as I turned into the road, I got the notification on my screen saying vehicle shutting down, pull over safely, and that kind of alarm was going off. And I was like, nah, I was like, come on. I was like, I can literally see my apartment block. So I thought, do I keep the power off and just go slowly towards it, or do I put the power on so I get there quicker? In my head, I thought, as long as I can get over the pavement into the driveway bit, I'm in the like safe zone, rather than stopping in the middle of the road, which is where I was. So I put my foot down and I made it across the pavement into the driveway just before the gate into my car park of the apartment block. And the car literally cut out. It literally stopped just as I touched the pavement. All wheels were on the pavement. It stopped, and the alarm was going off. It was saying the vehicle was shutting down. It was, yeah, it was crazy. So then I'm like, this is now annoying because the charger that I have is on the other side of the gate, like so close but so far. Now, obviously, you can't push a Tesla because it's obviously locked in because of the brakes and stuff. So I'm like, well, what on earth do I do? So I got out the 3-pin plug from the boot, and I live on the top of the apartment block. So I got an extension lead. Well, my sister got an extension lead, and she fed it over. It wasn't long enough. So we plugged it into another extension lead. That wasn't long enough. So we got one of the massive extension leads that you use for the lawnmower, and we plugged that into the other 2 extension leads, and then that into the Tesla lead, which finally made it to the charge port. And so yeah, so the same plug socket that is powering my TV is now plugged into the car, trying to give me enough juice to get through the gate. So I sat there looking, well, trying to look cool for about, you know, in your Tesla on the high street, people walking past, taking videos and stuff of this lead coming down plugged in. Yeah, you just can't write it. Anyway, I sat there for about an hour just to give me enough juice to get me through the gate to the main charger. And then I unplugged, I got through the gate, I plugged in, the alarm was still going off and it was telling me vehicle shutting down, but I plugged it in. So I had covered 5 miles from where I dropped my mate off to my apartment was 5 miles. And that is when it cut out. And that was at a constant, like a consistent 0. From that point, I literally got to the end of his road to my place. It was a constant 0. So it's not like it was like fluctuate. It was like 0 miles for that whole trip. And it's so weird because you're like speaking to the car. You're like, please don't cut out on me. Please don't cut out on me. Anyway, so I plugged it in. I went upstairs and then I came back down and the car was still beeping inside. Like, not the car alarm, but the alarm system inside with the notification was still telling me that the car was shutting down and it was going da-da-da-da-da-da. I thought, okay, maybe it needs to get, you know, 100% before it clears, whatever. Anyway, I came down the next morning, the alarm was still going off, the battery was now 100%, and I called Tesla and they were like, yeah, there's a problem with the communication system. So I thought, okay, I didn't really want to take it into them because, you know, it's just hassle. They have it for a few days and then da-da-da. So anyway, so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to factory reset the car now. If you've ever done that as a Tesla owner, you understand how painful that is because you've set all of the settings up and then you have to reset everything and then set it up again. Yeah, it's really, really, really bad. But I did it and the alarm was still on when it turned back on. So I knew I had to book it into them. So I took it into them. They had it for about a week. Yes, they weren't working on it for a week. There was just a bit of a backlog. But yeah, they needed to plug it in. And basically there was a problem with the communication system with the notifications, that the notification didn't realize that the battery was now charged, which is why the alarm didn't clear off. So they gave it back to me and obviously it was done. So in short, I was able to travel 5 miles before the car completely cut out. So yeah, I mean, I've let the battery get low before, not purposely, but you know, when it's cold, these things happen, but never ever has that happened. And next winter, I will never ever let the same thing happen again.